If I could have your attention here in the Media Center, we will start today's Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series pre-race availability for the 59th annual Coke Zero 400 powered by Coca-Cola. And we're joined by Kurt Busch, driver of the number 41 Monster Energy Haas Automation Ford for Stewart Haas Racing and your defending Daytona 500 champion. Have you had a chance to go say hi to the car on your way into the track?
I haven't just yet, but I can't wait. I just got in, and it's so special coming back to Daytona. I can feel it, and it's helping me absorb what we did here in February last time.
Okay, we'll open the floor up for questions. If you have a question for Kurt, please raise your hand. We will get a wireless microphone to you. We'll start with Gene and go to Bob.
Kirk, obviously every driver wants to win this race, but if each driver cannot win the race, is virtually everybody in that garage wanting Dale to win if they themselves can't win?
I think you're onto something there for sure. Everybody wants to win it, and yes, this is could possibly be Dale's last time in a top Monster Energy Series car at Daytona, and it's going to be a good battle. I guarantee he's going to be elbows out, sleeves rolled up, going hard, and he will be the car to beat this weekend.
We'll go next to Bob and then to Caleb.
Bob Pockris, ESPN. What has been the biggest adjustment going to Ford? Has it been kind of knowing either what to do or what not to do as the race weekend kind of unfolds?
I mean, not to get too specific about adjustments to Ford because of the aerodynamic balance or the horsepower torque range. I mean, we've been tweaking little things here and there that what's actually helped us at Ford is that there's so many areas to really go back and cover again. Things that we haven't changed in maybe 18 months or a couple of years, we're looking at in more detail. And so I think that's the biggest thing that's helped us at Ford, and also their technology center that they bring to the racetrack each and every week with a group of engineers running all the numbers throughout the race. They're scanning drivers, and the amount of information that they can get to our pit box as quick as they do is once I saw it happen like the first 3 or 4 weeks, I was blown away. So that's been big on the Ford performance side of it.
Go to Caleb and then to George.
Caleb Whistler, Speedway Digest. Kurt, can you just assess your season so far and what have you learned most about yourself and the team?
I mean, to start off winning the biggest stock car race in the world and to have the chance to hoist up the Harley J. Earl Trophy, that was a special moment and one of the highlights of my career. And, that isn't, something to rest on, but it's very special. And I would say that a few weeks after that, I think we were slightly hungover, not necessarily literally of what would happen at night, but it just seemed like a fog because of the excitement, the energy. That I get sent on a media tour. Tony Gibson grew up here in the shadows of Daytona International Speedway's grandstands, and all of us were so excited. We're ordering rings, we're ordering flags, and we're taking the Harley J. Earl Trophy around to Ford's headquarters, to Monster's headquarters, to Haas Automation's headquarters. There was a lot going on. And once we settled in and we were learning the balance of our Ford and how the little things were changing here and there, in all honesty, I think we've done great. Half the races so far this year, we have a top 10 finish. Harvick won last week at road course. For us to win as super speedway, it's showing the versatility that Stewart Haas has, and now we have to focus, which is always this time of year, on the mile and a halfs and making sure we're as best prepared for when the playoffs start.
Over here in the, good? Okay, George Diaz over here with the Orlando Sentinel over here in the back. You alluded to this just briefly now, but can you talk, Kurt, from a competitive standpoint, winning the Daytona 500 from the get-go and your team's perspective, is it a little bit like playing with house money moving forward?
The way that it seems to have unfolded the last few years for us on the 41 car is we're always building up towards that win, running well, top 5 here. A bad day might be 12th, And then we broke through and won at Pocono last summer. And then it seems like it's a struggle after you win. And yet you got to get it rebuilt or got to tweak things to adjust and not get complacent and be ready for the playoffs. So when you win the first race of the year, it changes the game on how you have to adjust and build it back up. And so I feel like with an experienced leader like Tony Gibson, and now with a half a season under our belt with the Ford and everybody at Stewart-Haas, Clint Boyer has now found a better rhythm with his crew chief Bugowitz. It all looks like we've got everything with the up arrow around it.
Matt Corson with the RacingExperts.com. Kurt, this is the only scheduled night restrictor plate track. Can you talk about, from a racing standpoint, what sets this race apart from the others?
Oh, that's a good observation. I didn't realize it is the night race restrictor plate, and everything runs cooler at night, and so there's more grip. We'll always run more aggressively on the tape for the aerodynamic side, so that the cars are slicker through the air, but yet at night you can trust the grip level of the track a bit more consistent. And I think this time around the cars will have more grip than what they did in February, because February, man, it was slick and there was a lot of accidents, Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and in Monster Energy Cup. So it's been, we'll see how it plays out this time around. Should have more grip with all the cars.
We'll go next to Jerry and then to Reed.
Jerry Jordan, KickingTheTires.net and PRN. Two questions real quick. Does the Earl World Tour end this week, or does it continue on for the year? And also, do you wish you had that car over there in the museum for this weekend?
Yeah, the Stanley Cup tradition is 100 days after you win the Cup, you get to take it around. And when Earl and I went out on a boat ride on Lake Norman, it was in May. He looked at me, he's like, "Hey man, I'm tired. I want to go hang out with the other trophies in the trophy room." So the World Tour of Earl, when he was hanging out with the crew guys, they didn't do a lot of things on social media with him that should have been done. And so, again, it's that buzz and that energy, and winning Daytona, having that Harley J. Earl trophy, it's very special. And the reason for doing such of a tour with the trophy is the fact that when I called Daytona International Speedway on Monday looking for replicas, they said that there's only 2 that they make per year. And Gene Haas has his in Oxnard, California at the Haas headquarters. And I have mine at my home right now, but I wanted to share it with everybody. And yeah, it's a little disappointing. We don't have our winning car. On Monday afterwards, we're pushing it into the museum and the Motorsports Hall of Fame over there. And that experience of losing a race-winning car is tough to digest. But at the end of the day, it's one of the coolest feelings in the world. It's like, you know what? We'll go build another one. And the car we're racing this weekend finished 6th earlier this year at Talladega. So we'll be all right.
We'll go Reed, Lee, Bob, and Dustin.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire Service. You talked about getting ready for the playoff and concentrating on the mile and a halves. Exactly how do you do that, given the fact that Kentucky's the only mile and a half between now and Chicagoland? Do you lobby to get on the Atlanta tire test in August? Do you do a lot of sim work, that sort of thing?
Well, you're smarter than I am. Heck, I didn't realize Kentucky's the only mile and a half before we get to Chicago. Okay. All right. Well, we tested Kentucky earlier, about a month ago, working with Goodyear on the tires. I know that we have a Chicago test with Goodyear on the tire that they are wanting to bring to that event. And then I believe there's a rule change with the front splitter that they're going to implement once we get to Kentucky. And so that'll change the balance of all the cars at the mile and a halves. And that's where, again, a lot of it's getting into sim work. I was on the simulator before we went out to Sonoma to physically drive the simulator. And then there's the computer simulation models that the engineers use. And I think it's just getting into more detail. It's going further with understanding what it's going to take to be successful at Chicago, at Dover, at Charlotte, at Kansas. You know, Texas is one of the most important races, or it used to be, because the asphalt surface was very comparable to Homestead. So right now, I think the 2 most important races coming up are Kentucky and Chicago, if we're gearing up towards a championship run.
Go Lee, then Bob, then Dustin.
Lee Spencer, Motorsport.com. I saw where your lovely bride tweeted something about 4th of July being your favorite holiday. And just curious about, why that is. And I know you have a penchant for fireworks, and that might have something to do with it. But can you, yeah, I know.
Still good.
What about your toes? But anyway, if you could kind of explain why that, resonates with you.
Growing up in Las Vegas, there was always July 4th fireworks shows. The Strip always put on a show, and as a kid, you don't quite digest what July 4th means. And as I got older, you understand it's the independence and the freedom that we obtained as a country, and the pure heat and the hotness and just the summer months. And July 4th is right in the middle of summer break. It just always seemed like a great celebration. And over the years with military and understanding the independence, the red, white, and blue, it's easy to have your pride bleed through. And with fireworks and lemonade, cold beer, Monster, it's a time to kick back and enjoy the summer months with family. And so I've always tried to coordinate July 4th parties. Last year we threw a huge bash on Lake Norman, rented a floating barge to set all the fireworks off of, and had the Iredell County Sheriff Patrol help keep people away from the firework barge and have all the safety implements put in place. And, we're still hearing about it. And I think everybody in Lake Norman's like, is Kurt throwing his party again this year? And I conned a friend in Vegas to throw a party. So I'm actually headed out west to have a big party at his place in Vegas, July 4th. And it'll be fun just to kick back, relax. It's perfect. It's on a Tuesday. It's kind of like our Saturday as far as how our schedule works on the NASCAR circuit. So it'll be a fun little party on Tuesday.
We'll go Bob, Dustin, Colton, and then Kelly.
Bob Pockers, ESPN. Mitch told me last week that they still haven't decided yet. Monster hasn't decided yet whether to sponsor the 41 next year. Are you you have any worry or concerns about what you'll be doing next year?
I don't have any worries. I know that I deliver for the team. Our performance level is one that shouldn't be in question. I mean, winning the Daytona 500 is special, but performing week in and week out, the deliverables that I bring sponsorship-wise, that comes into play. And I know that they're working with NASCAR, trying to sort out, Monster Energy is trying to sort out their issues with NASCAR and the entitlement sponsor. So there's a lot of moving parts, but I don't feel any fear whatsoever. I actually feel very confident on the sponsorship that I bring, Ford Performance's involvement with Stuart Haas, and how I've blended in with this team. I feel great.
Go to Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. I just had two quick questions. One is just because there's been some question about your contract status in relation to that. Can you clarify your contract status beyond this year? And second of all, this race seems to become more about track position, where the winner of the last few years has had an average running position in the top 5. You were a little further back in the 500. How has that changed, and what more are you having to do a lot sooner in the race, or to put yourself in position, and how do you want to put yourself in position at certain points in the race?
Okay. For me, the team has the option on my contract, and they just have to notify me by a specific date if they're going to pick that option up. And that's as easy as that. And so I feel like they will, or however the timing works out, I feel very confident in how things will come together. As far as the average running position and where you need to be at Daytona or Talladega to win, I think it's all about the final segments average running position. So wherever the numbers have shown, I think you got to be within the top 6 to have a shot at it.
Colton.
Colton Wood, Florida Today. After winning the 500 back in February, your first restrictor plate points win, is there a different feeling now having that 500 win entering Daytona, whereas in the previous years you didn't win at Daytona and you were still trying to get that first win at this track? Is there, like, emotion-wise or anything like that that's changed here now with that win?
On the emotion side, yeah, it feels great to have a Daytona 500 win, and the ring and the trophy and the prestige and the value of that win. And how I won the race is something that you have in your back pocket as far as the knowledge and the understanding of what took place at the end, the draft and the move that I made, or the handling characteristics of the car. But you can't be too complacent, and you always have to find new things and put more tools in your toolbox to be able to have that advantage at the end of the race when it comes to mastering the draft. And so by no means do I think I've mastered it. There are guys that have more tools in their toolbox to try to use, and I need to do a better job too to be able to have more restrictor plate wins.
Kelly?
Kelly Crandall, Racer.com. Piggybacking off that, and you just said you don't think you've mastered the draft, but in a way, do you kind of feel like an underrated plate racer? Because granted, the 500 was your first plate win, but you've always performed very well at Daytona and Talladega. So, and even mentioning that Dale Jr. will probably be the car to beat, do you still think, hey, maybe I should be included in these conversations at Daytona and Talladega?
I just still need to continue to do my job to be better, and you can't be complacent even if you've won a race. And Dale Jr. has the win quantity, and that's what I'm referring to when he's like our favorite, or the favorite going into the weekend. And things he does on the track, those are, if I'm watching video, I'm watching the 88 car to learn how to do different things. And my statistics have been good, they've been consistent. I've been lucky in many situations to have avoided the big one, and that's helped me develop those good average finishes. And so we look forward to coming to restrictor plate races at Stewart Haas. Tony Gibson is a good crew chief for the restrictor plates, and I'm happy to have him on my side, and I want to go out there and do the job to deliver for him and the team.
Any additional questions for our reigning Daytona 500 champion? Caleb?
Caleb, Whistler Speedway Digest. With 10 different winners and the potential to have more different winners this season, how important is it for you to stay in that top 10 to use those playoff points you've accumulated during the regular season and into the playoffs?
Yeah, there's two parts to your question. There could be more than 16 winners, and then it gets into who's higher in points, like you're saying. And then there's more wins or more stage victories to carry those points through the playoffs. And so I look at it, we're ahead of Newman, we're ahead of Dillon, we're ahead of Stenhouse. We're right there with Blaney, who won Pocono a few weeks ago. And if we end up with more than 16 winners, then you're in that pool racing the guys that have the one win. But then our job ultimately is to win the championship. And so we don't need to be looking at what it takes to just get into the playoffs. We need to be accumulating those bonus points that stay with you through the chase, and so, or through the playoffs. And so right now, a guy like Truex, he can just sit there and almost lollygag all the way to Homestead with as many playoff points as he's accumulated. Kyle Larson can almost do the same thing. Or whoever has those bonus points, they can just kind of cruise in a small way through some of the rounds of the playoffs. So we'll see how it all plays out. We know that we need to accumulate more bonus points to be competitive and to be one of those final four at Homestead.
Well, Kurt, we're pretty sure you're not going to be lollygagging on Saturday night during the Coke 0400. Good luck on trying to pull off the sweep.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that.